observation. Black Americans typically do not have blue eyes, and we need to explore this concept. Let's be very specific. Now, I will tell you in my life, I have never met an American who would be considered African American, meaning implying that both of their parents were of African descent, and not biracial specifically, where one of their parents was white. I guess that's how we define what African American means here in the United States. I've never met an African American, and both of their parents were predominantly African descent, who had blue eyes. Okay, I've never seen that before. Definitely, I've known people who were biracial who had blue eyes. One parent was predominantly African descent, and the other was predominantly European. And they end up with blue eyes. I could even say, okay, like people who are Puerto Rican or Dominican Republic, I've seen they have African features, but they have blue eyes. And that's not what I'm talking about, because then we're getting back into biracial or triracial. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about someone who is mostly African descent. And typically, if a black American takes a DNA test, it's going to show something like 3/4 to 2/3, somewhere around there, of their DNA is from Africa, and the rest would be predictably European. But even then, what I'm saying is, black Americans in the United States, who both of their parents were predominantly African, and not one wasn't biracial, typically they're not going to have blue eyes. It's not until one parent is European descent or something other than African that you're going to see the blue eyes pop up. Okay? So I understand there may be exceptions to the rule, and I'm never worried about that. I like to talk about generalizations, because sometimes we learn important things from generalizations. Just like one of my most popular videos on this channel, I pointed out to the world that it's very rare, and it's actually never happened for me. I've never once seen a homeless Mexican man or a Mexican homeless man. And I live in Nashville, where there's a large population of homeless people, but I've never seen a homeless Mexican person. And that's not a coincidence. That's because culturally, it's just out of the identity of a Mexican person to end up homeless, because ultimately, typically, often, they live in homes where there's a lot of them and their family, and they're not going to let someone in their family end up on the streets begging for money. They're willing to take jobs that the rest of Americans are not willing to take. Butchering animals, picking fruit, jobs without insurance, being paid on the table, construction. It's very rare to see a Mexican homeless Mexican man in the United States. It's rare, and I've never seen it. Okay, so I think that's interesting. I pointed out that generalization, and a lot of people thought, wow, he's actually right, this random guy on the internet. So now I want to talk about black Americans with blue eyes, in which one of their parents is not white. Both parents, if you looked at their parents, yep, they're both black. They're both of African descent. And I don't see any obvious European traits in either of their parents, yet the kid has blue eyes. I don't even mean brown. Look at my eyes, okay? Pretty dark. I don't even mean lighter than that as far as brown. I'm saying blue eyes. Blue eyes. I've never met an African American, or should I say black American, that had blue eyes. And if I did, they would be considered biracial because one of their parents was white or something that was not African. This is my observation. I know the culture of YouTube is to tell me how wrong I am, ignorant, immoral. I understand that. That's how the culture is on YouTube. Is there anyone willing to actually agree with me on this and explore this further? Comments belong right here.